A person who has no discernment accepts everything on the face value and believes that as they were yesterday, they will also be today. But are you a wise, discerning man who is laying aside the abundance you have received today? Or you are using the abundance you have today with the notion that there will be abundance forever? Genesis chapter 41, and we're going to look at the story of Joseph. Joseph is a very interesting character in the Bible. As a matter of fact, there is not only one Joseph, there are about three popular Josephs in the Bible. The Joseph who was the son of Jacob, whose story we are going to look at today, and Joseph who was the father or the foster father of Jesus Christ, and Joseph of Arimathea. The peculiar thing about all these Josephs is that they preserved the future. Tell the person next to you, preserve the future. They preserved the future in the present. Joseph, the father of Jesus, preserved Jesus before he was manifested in his ministry. Remember when Herod wanted to kill Jesus Christ when he was a baby, and the angel of God appeared to Joseph and said, "Take a child, take him out. For Herod seeks to destroy him. Take him to Egypt." And he took Jesus to Egypt. He protected him. He preserved him because his future was yet to be manifested. He was a preserver of the future. And then you also have Joseph of Arimathea, who asked for the body of Jesus Christ and preserved the body of Jesus for his resurrection. He was a preserver of the future. And there is this Joseph we are talking about, who was also a preserver of the future. If you are going to develop the realities of tomorrow, you have to learn to preserve the future. Joseph, by strange circumstances, I'm giving you the background to the story. By strange circumstances, Joseph finds himself in Egypt. And by more stranger circumstances, he is brought out from prison to interpret a baffling dream that Pharaoh has been having on and over and over. And the Pharaoh, who is the king of Egypt, is baffled. He calls his magicians, his great people, his sorcerers, his consultants, his advisors, his political advisors, and so on. And they have no clue as to the meaning of the dream that Pharaoh has been having. And so Joseph is brought out from prison to unravel the mystery of the dream and interpret the dream and probably give guidance to Pharaoh and to the whole of Egypt. And that's what we are reading about now in Genesis chapter 41, and I will begin reading from verse number 28. The two dreams of Pharaoh, before we read verse 28, remember, two dreams of Pharaoh. He sees two dreams. One, he sees cows, fat cows, which are grazing along the Nile River, and all of a sudden lean cows come and eat up the fat cows. Then he sees another dream where fat growing grains of corn or wheat, very good harvest, is standing out there, and all of a sudden a lean and blighted harvest comes in and consumes the one which is healthy. It reverses the natural order. You will think that the fatter cow will eat the smaller cow, but in Pharaoh's dream, small things eat big things. So from verse 28, this is the thing that I have spoken to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. Indeed, 7 years of great plenty will come throughout all the land of Egypt. But after them 7 years of famine will arise, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine will deplete the land. So the plenty will not be known in the land because of the famine following, for it will be very severe. And the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice, because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man, and let him set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land to collect 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 plentiful years, and let them gather all the food of those good years that are coming, and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. Then that food shall be as a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land may not perish during famine. That the land may not perish during famine. Very interesting dream, interesting and frightening interpretation. The dream says simply that God is going to bring 2 seasons to Egypt. Remember, my friend, that there are seasons of life. Everybody say seasons of life. A season is a period during which things happen. And life does not present only one season. At least in Ghana, we have two seasons. We have the rainy season and we have the dry season. In the temperate countries, they have 4 seasons. They have winter, they have spring, they have summer, they have fall or autumn. These are 4 seasons. And during those 4 seasons, different things happen. Conditions change. In our own situation, during the rainy season, we know it rains. And during the dry season, we know it's dry. There are seasons of life also that individuals go through, and there are seasons that nations also go through, and there are seasons that organizations go through. We don't only have one season, we have several seasons of life. And God is telling Pharaoh, there are 2 seasons coming into your life. The first season, the first period, is the season of abundance. Everybody say the season of abundance. It's a period in which things are going to be good, things are going to grow, things are going to be powerful and mighty. Everything will go all right. Everything will be perfect. Whatever you touch is blessed. If you breathe, it turns into money. If you step your feet out in the stand, you lift up your foot and it's gold dust. Everything is working for you. That is the season of abundance. Tell your neighbor, there is a season of abundance. And then he says another season is coming. It's the season of farming or the season of scarcity. Everybody say season of famine and scarcity. In the season of famine and scarcity, nothing works. In the season of abundance, everything works. In the season of famine and scarcity, nothing works. And God is saying to Pharaoh, you are going to have these 2 seasons. But the good thing about God is that he begins with a good season. Everybody say, God begins with a good season. The season of abundance, he says there's going to be a time when there will be 7 years of abundance. 7 years of breakthrough. 7 years of success. 7 years of wealth. 7 years of health. 7 years of goodness. They are going to come. But God says, as surely as 7 years of goodness come, 7 years of hardship and famine and scarcity is come. Tell your neighbor, the seasons will change upon you. You cannot change the seasons. The seasons are programmed. They will come. So Joseph says, God has shown you the seasons. But he didn't only show you the seasons. He also gives strategy for dealing with the seasons. And God says through Joseph, tell Pharaoh that in order not to become a victim of the seasons of life, a few things will have to be done. One, which is the most important recommendation, is found in verse number 33. Now therefore, let Pharaoh select. Everybody say select. To select means that it's not something that is common. It's something that must be delicately discovered. Let Pharaoh select. What is he supposed to select? A discerning and wise man. It takes that kind of a person to master the seasons of life. A person who is discerning is the kind of person who has deeper understanding concerning what he sees and can make proper distinguishing differences. A person who has no discernment accepts everything on the face value and believes that as they were yesterday, they will also be today. But a person of discernment is able to read the signs of the times he's living in. And not only is he a person of discernment, but a person who is wise. What is that person supposed to do? That person is supposed to first know that the wealth of today will not be there forever. What you see in abundance today will not be there forever. And the person of discernment preserves today so that tomorrow there will be still abundance. The person of discernment is able to take the abundance of today and stretch it over a very long time. And he does that by not overspending, overusing, overutilizing what is abundant today He does that by preserving what is abundant today, so that when scarcity comes, his abundance can feed him in the days of scarcity. The tragedy of life and the tragedy of even nations is sometimes we consider that conditions are permanent. Even nations think that way. We think our resources are permanent. Our gold is permanent. Our forests are permanent. Did you know that we have almost depleted as a nation all the timber and the forests we used to have? Did you know that? Do you know that only about 5% of the forest reserves we used to have at the beginning of the century is still around? Do you know why? We are sitting on it. Timber, chairs. We somehow felt that the forest is so big it will never get finished. And so we continue cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting until we get to a point of scarcity. And since we didn't preserve abundance, when scarcity comes, it destroys you. Every resource we have in the world is limited. The only thing which is unlimited in this world is God. But apart from God, everything is limited. The fish in the sea is limited. The sea itself is limited. The water bodies we have are limited. Everything, oil is limited, gold is limited, diamond is limited, everything is limited. A discerning people do not use their abundance in a short time. A discerning people spread out the benefit of the abundance from generation unto generation. So Joseph says to Pharaoh, in order not to become a victim of your own abundance, one, look for discerning people. Number two, let that discerning person appoint collectors. Everybody say appoint collectors. That's in verse 34. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers of the land to collect 1/5 of the produce of the land in the 7 plentiful years. There should be people whose responsibility it is to make sure that the wealth which is abundant today is protected and conserved, is collected, so that when the scarcity comes, we will not be in trouble. Number 3, he says, not only should we appoint collectors, we also have to gather food. Everybody say gather. Okay, gather food in the good years. That's in verse 35. And let them gather all the food of those good years that are coming, and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh. Number 4, let them store under authority. That means that whatever they store must be kept under authority in such a way that they can't go back and take it and misuse it again. There must be proper authority over what is stored. Number 5, he says, keep them in the city. Keep them in the city, not in the desert, in the cities. Why? Because whatever has been stored must be close to you, so that when you need it, you can have very easy access and quick access to it and utilize it for yourself. And number 6, he says, let them be for the reserves for the years of famine. Let them be for the years, for the reserve for the year of famine. I don't know who you are, what you have, how much you trust yourself, but the seasons of life are not permanent. Some of us today are in the season of abundance, and we are taking it for granted because we somehow believe that the abundance will be there forever. And when the season of abundance comes, it is very easy to overspend. Somehow when your income increases, your appetite also increases. How many of you know that? When you get bonus in the office, somehow your appetite also increases, and you spend more for things you didn't at first spend for. Your eating patterns change, your dressing pattern changes. You have more money to spend because somehow you believe, as it was in the beginning, it's now and ever shall be. May I please tell you, the only thing that was and ever shall be is God. But your money will never ever shall be. There is a time for abundance. There is a time when things are working for you. There is a time even when your business can be growing and things are booming and it seems like everything is working for you. But remember, those seasons will change. But just because the seasons have changed does not mean your circumstances must change. Because if you were a wise and discerning person, even when the seasons change, your circumstance will still be the same. Look at how verse 53 describes the results of what Joseph did. Then the 7 years of plenty which were in the land of Egypt ended. Verse 54. And the 7 years of famine began to come, as Joseph had said. The famine was in all the land, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. If you know the story, as a result of the famine, Joseph's brothers had to travel from wherever they were to come to Egypt. That's what actually brought Israel to Egypt and then led to their enslavement and then to the Exodus. But in Egypt, there was bread. Why was there bread? Because Joseph had preserved the resources of today for the future. If you are young, remember you will never be young forever. You will not be strong forever. You will not be working forever. One day you'll be old. Some of you can't believe it, but one day you'll be old. You'll be 75. You'll be 80. You'll be 95. You may go on retirement at the age of 65. If you're going to live to be 95, you have 30 years of famine ahead of you. Don't anticipate that you will die immediately you go on pension, because you may live for 30 more years. You retire at 65, you live for 30 more years. What are you going to do in the days of famine? Are you a wise, discerning man who is laying aside the abundance you have received today? Or you are using the abundance you have today with the notion that there will be abundance forever? So you are multiplying your expenditure, you are buying more cars, multiplying more girlfriends. Instead of appointing collectors who will store your money, you have appointed yourself girls who are collectors who misuse your money. And you forget that you will become an old man one day. And you will not be attractive again, you will not be handsome again. And no girl will like you again. Because you are old and poor. It is only a foolish man who says, had I known. A wise man does not say, had I known. A wise man knows, because he's a discerning man. He knows the future and preserves the future in the present. That's what Joseph was saying to Pharaoh. Abundance is not going to be there. It's important for individuals to understand. You're not going to be there forever. You're not going to be strong forever. You're not going to make money forever. Your business may not be there forever. But the wealth which you have can be managed in such a way that in the midst of famine, there will be bread. For the people of discernment, famine is an opportunity for them to even make more money. Because if you check the story of Joseph, that was the time he made more money, because he stored up money, the food, and then he raised the price. That's wisdom. People will say, he's wicked. Now that the people are hungry, give them free. Who told you that? If the people had been wiser, they would not be hungry in the first place. He raised the price and gathered in more money. In fact, at that time, money was of no value again, because if you had money and you had no food, you were going to die. So he raised the prices. He had more money. He collected more money for the nation because he planned ahead of time. In much the same way as individuals have seasons, nations also have seasons. The wealth of a nation is not forever. The wealth is not forever. Now, our primary export commodities are tumbling seriously on the world market. Cocoa. And we are blaming international world order. It's unjust and unfair. But there was a time when there was abundance of cocoa. But we thought it would be there forever. We thought the market would be stable forever. But nothing is stable in this world. No condition is permanent. In the time of abundance, probably the money we receive from cocoa, we could have used it to develop other crops and other industries, so that when cocoa goes into farming, we'll still have bread. But now cocoa is in farming, we are in farming. Gold prices are falling. We thought, as for gold, it's from God. It never will fall. Prices are falling. What do? You go back borrowing, because you don't discern that the cycles of life will happen to everybody and every nation.